I've been thinking about giving this particular talk for quite some time, and I wonder if anyone here remembers what you did August 2nd of this year. Anybody? August 2nd. Yeah, was that? I think it was Wednesday. Okay. Well, that day, like any other day, I had a plan when I got up in the morning, and I make my plan for the day after breakfast or after the stand-up meeting, and I don't build in time for anything else to get in the way of that plan, because I know that that's how things are going to unfold, despite the fact of hearing teachings for years on impermanence and death, and meditating on it, and being really convinced in moments that, yeah, things are changing. I could die at any moment. So that particular day, I knew I was already quite tired. And I did have a plan after doing this afternoon event of going to lie down. So the one thing I had to do, what were we doing before that? I had to run out and get these pictures. We were using the tractor, and there was a hose that was broken underneath the tractor. And I knew that I had to get pictures of this hose that was broken to the tractor company before they closed in 15 minutes or something. So I hurried over with my iPad. I got great photographs. They were really clear. And so I was underneath the tractor, and then I stood up underneath the tractor and really smacked my head a good one. And I had my favorite ball cap on, so it was really painful, I have to say. I didn't lose consciousness. This is what they asked me later at the hospital. I didn't see stars, but I put my hand here. And after a few minutes, I thought, why is my hand getting wet? And so I was bleeding through my ball cap. And then I thought, I think this is maybe something I need to show to Venerable Jigme. So I walked to Ananda, and Venerable Pema saw me, and she said, "Do you need help?" And I said, "Yes. Could you get Venerable Jigme?" So Venerable Jigme, of course, came to my rescue and took a look at my head and decided we should go to the emergency room. This was not in my plan that day. Totally not in my plan. So we go to the emergency room, and it happened to be a very busy day for them, of course. It's an emergency room. And, by the time the doctor sees us, he just takes a look at my head and, tells me it's okay, and then tells me to rest the next day. So, there was no stitches, and I thought, no big deal. No big deal. So then later on, I noticed that I wasn't thinking so clearly, and I thought, this is interesting, but I just need some sleep. I'm tired. This is what I need. And actually, what I actually got out of it was 4 days in bed. And that also was not in my plan. But I think what this whole experience has shown me is a number of things. First of all, for those 4 days, I was extremely sensitive to light and sound. All I could do was sleep. And I tried to do my practice, but it was so hard to even read the practice. And as I was going through each day, I thought, wow, they didn't say I had a concussion. And I read another article recently where I don't know if I did. If I did, it was mild. But it really made me unable to do things that I thought would be just coming to me naturally, like the practices I had memorized. And I couldn't even do those without reading them. And so then I was thinking, as I was lying in bed on the days that I could do practice, I started doing some Tonglen for people who have concussions. Because recently in the news, we've been reading a lot about specifically football players who have repeated hits to the head, and how this can bring on, really extreme brain damage in some cases, and brain damage in all cases. And then recently, I actually read an article by a woman who has been researching these injuries, concussions. And she herself, this past summer, had a bike accident, and she ended up getting a very serious concussion. And so her understanding of the whole issue was really amplified too. So in thinking about this, first of all, I see that unless I have something that's memorized really deeply, it's not going to come easily when the body's in distress. That was shown to me clearly. I was quite shocked about that. And then if we think about the time of death, I don't know about you, but I have this imagination that, of course, the time of death is way off. and that by that time I'll have many practices memorized and the mind will be really strong. Well, in fact, when we're dying, for me, an ordinary being, I doubt it now. I doubt it. And if I have a terminal illness and I can't cope with the pain without morphine, then we're even more compromised. And then I was thinking about all of these young kids, first of all, that are playing football or playing hockey, and how fathers, mothers, coaches encourage their kids to get out there and get in the game and play hard, And sports are really different than when I was growing up. I remember as a kid, the only way that we could connect with our dad, because he was working 6 days a week, was to sit with him when he watched the Saturday night hockey game in Canada. And that's how we connected with our dad. So for a short period of time, I kind of became interested in hockey. And in the late 60s and the 70s, players, number one, hockey players, professional hockey players, did not wear helmets. Their padding was really minimal. And the whole game at that time was a game of strategy. It was weaving around players. There was thinking going on. There was passing. There were plans in place. And so I got to enjoy it. Now, and everyone in Canada can swoop on me and send me nasty emails, I think it's a gladiator sport. The people playing professional hockey are bigger. Yes, the equipment is more sturdy, but I see everyone smashing each other. And they do this especially in football. They smash each other. And so, of course, your head gets smashed. And repeated brain injuries can bring on early onset dementia. There's this condition called CTE, which stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a degenerative brain disease caused by repetitive brain trauma. The trauma triggers progressive brain tissue degeneration, including a buildup of some protein called tau. T-A-U. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I don't know how sport has evolved in this way, to become a gladiator sport. But I think it's tragic that young kids in hockey are coached to hit them and hit them hard. And just last week, I was talking with a friend that I used to teach with. She has 3 sons. All of them used to play football. 2 of the 3 still do. But one of our sons was hit so hard 5 years ago. He's now 21. He was hit so hard in a high school football practice at the age of 16 that he couldn't get up. And the coach ran over to him and said, "Get up, get back in the game, get up." So he did. And now, 5 years later, he was not able to finish high school. He's still going to see a neurologist. And they have pretty much maxed out all the options for treatment. So this young man is 21, he has chronic headaches. They're trying everything. And so my wish in both of these, so the 2 points I'm trying to make with this talk is, number one, we really have to get practices memorized. Maybe it's just one, so that whatever happens in life, our memory of this will be so strong that when we're hurt or when we're sick, we can still do it. Maybe we'll need a prompt by reading the text, but we need to have some mental strength. The other wish I have is that parents and teachers all get together and insist on sports being no contact. And it is a better game when there's no contact. You have to think, there's strategies, there's much more dexterity. You still get the same, physical fitness, which is so important for young kids. So I'm all for that. But physical fitness doesn't have to involve hitting as hard as you can. And then just in closing, I saw too that when my mother eventually in the last 5 years of her life developed dementia, she for her whole life, from the time she was a little girl, played the piano. And she had this gift of having, this wonderful ear. And she had perfect pitch. In the last 5 years of her life, she played the piano every day from memory. Number one, because that's all she had to go on. Number two, she was almost blind from macular degeneration. And so she could sit at the piano for hours each day and play. Why? Because that's what she had done all of her life. So I think we have to really remember that we become what we repeatedly do, and what we do is what we've repeatedly done in the past. So let's really focus on getting our mind really strong so that in any situation, and maybe it's just reading shocking news in the newspaper where we're, stunned, or we're sick, or we're hurt, we have something that we can really hang on to that will carry us through that time.